video installment is dedicated to Q&A, questions and answers. I get a lot of questions all the time. Obviously, I can't answer every email, every question sent my way, but every now and then I will dedicate a video addressing some of the most frequently asked questions or some of the more interesting questions. But before I get into that, y'all know how I do. I have to share with you a true experience. It's very interesting. I'm not going to give my conclusion as to what this particular situation was. I'm only going to share it in a way to provoke thought, as I always do. Last Wednesday, I was awakened to my cell phone ringing rather, and by the time I had gotten to the cell phone, the call stopped, meaning in my mind I'm thinking it went to voicemail. So I picked up my phone and I looked at who was calling me, and the person was calling me at an unusual hour. And I look at my phone and I see that it was my sister, Faye. And the first thing I thought was, while she's calling me this late, something is wrong. Something is wrong. Just coming up out of a sleep, this is what I'm thinking. So I immediately called her back, and I was getting this voice message stating that the person you're trying to reach is unavailable at this time. Try again. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I missed dial. I'm still kind of groggy, coming up out of a sleep. So I dialed it again and got the same message. Hung up again just to make sure I was calling the right number, and I got the same message. The person you're trying to reach is unavailable at this time. So naturally I'm thinking something is definitely wrong here. I need to get in contact with my sister to find out what's going on. So I then called my oldest nephew, my sister's son, and he was on his way in the house. I asked him where was he. He was saying he was on his way, to the house, and I had let him know that I got a call from his mother at 11:48 p.m. That was the time, at 11:48 p.m. And I was calling to make sure everything was okay, because it's just very unusual for her to give me a call like that, especially during the work week. My sister has to get up really early in the morning. So my nephew went home and told my sister, because I advised him to tell her to call me. And I'm backtracking here. I didn't want to call my sister on her house phone because I didn't want to risk waking up anyone else in the house, given that she was calling me from her cell phone. So in my mind, I was thinking she was out and about somewhere and she was calling me, or that she was calling me privately, since again she was calling from the cell phone. So my sister called me back from her house phone, and I answered the phone, and first thing she said was, "Yeah, what's up?" And I said, "What's up? You called me. What's going on? Is everything okay?" And she said, "I didn't call you." And I said, "Yeah, you did. I have right here on my phone that you called me." And she was like, "No, that couldn't have been me. I didn't call you." And she said, "As a matter of fact, I just got my number changed. I got my phone turned off today, and I was going to call and give you my new number, but I was going to wait until the next day because, I had gotten tied up and I didn't remember or have the time to call and give you my new number, but I was intending on giving it to you the next day." And I was like, "No, well, why in the world and how in the world is it that, it's showing up that you called me?" And then my sister was like, "Well, are you sure you called the right number? Maybe you looked at the phone incorrectly." And I looked at it again, and I said, "No, I'm looking right at it. It clearly says your name." And then this is where it gets really interesting. It shows that she called at 11:48 p.m. from the cell phone number that she's now admitting that she had turned off the same day. But the most interesting thing is that the date for which she was shown to be calling was February 15th, 2017. And I told her this, and she just kept saying, "Are you sure you're awake? Are you sure you're looking? Do you have on your reading glasses?" And I'm like, "I'm looking right at it. Yes, I'm telling you what is going on here." And she was like, "That is wild." I got my phone turned off. And why would you be getting a phone call from me when the phone is disconnected and for a date and time that is just so outside of this paradigm, this timeline? For you guys, if you don't believe me, here it is right here. I don't know if this is going to really show up well with the reflection in this camera. If it doesn't show up well in this camera, I'm just going to take a snapshot of this when I get in the house. And I don't even know if that will come out because of the reflection on the panel with the camera. But it clearly says that she called February 15th, 2017. And I told my sister, I said, well, so that you know that I'm not fabricating or making this stuff up or I'm misreading this, I will show you when I come and visit you guys the weekend. And that's what I did. It's still here, and it still shows up as a missed call, and the missed call still shows up as today. Even though this was over a week ago, it's still showing up as today. And of course, that has everything to do with it showing up as February 15th, 2017. Now, just being a little provocative, was this a computer glitch of the telephone system? Was this a computer glitch of the matrix itself? Was there a glitch in the paradigm, in the dimensional fabric, the dimensional fields? Y'all know how I am. Just provoking a little thought there, but very true story. But anyway, let me get to these questions, and I'm going to read these questions exactly the way in which they were sent to me. If you do not want to sit through this entire video, what you can do is look in the video description. I list the questions that I'm going to be reading and answering, and you can just click on the timeline for the question that you're most interested in if you do not want to sit through this entire video. Alright, question number 1. In the astral realm, is it possible to create your own creations, your own creatures, your own planet to change into matter? And the answer to that question is yes, yes, and yes. Think of the astral realm much like a place where we can create or write out a blueprint and test out the blueprint in a 3D, 4D, 5D fashion if we so choose to. Now, like any blueprint, the minute we have it laid out here in physical reality, we share it with those who will be sharing in building, those who will be investing in with the resources and the tools that are needed. However, from an astral point of view or astral perspective, it works differently in that once we create it and we bring it here and we come here, if the energy and the intent is strong enough and if we are balanced enough, we can in essence create those very things in physical matter, physical reality. Of course, there are very, very, very few people in history who have been able to actually make this happen in real time or instantaneously. That's really the word that I'm looking for. But we have, and we are doing this in an incremental, subtle way. Some more so than others, but yes, we can create our own world, creatures, reality in the astral realm. And yes, it is possible to bring or manifest that which we think of and can project and create in the astral into the physical, and vice versa. You know, it works both ways. As a matter of fact, many of the things that we see here in the physical was created in the astral or ethereal realm before it became a manifestation here. And it goes both ways. Question 2. Are we living in a parallel universe? Again, the answer to that question is yes, we are multidimensional by nature. And parallel universe, meaning there is a universe that is parallel to this one, and then there's a universe parallel to that one, and so on and so on. And we're building more universes by the minute, by the day, by time as we know it, and outside of time. So it is infinite. And in these parallel universes, you will have parallel realities of everything that we experienced here. In conjunction to what I just stated, we can experience infinite possibilities, trajectories, and realities here and beyond, all parallel universes. Each adjacent universe has a slight and or major difference in their respective reality, trajectories, and outcome to infinity. Try wrapping the human mind around that. The experience that I shared with you very well could be a parallel reality that somewhat bled it over into this paradigm due to the glitches, hint, that are going on. Again, just food for thought. Reality is far more fluid, far more expansive and expanding than we are consciously aware of. Question number 3. They made a robot with self-awareness. Does it has a soul? Is programmed self-awareness energy? And why can't consciousness get damaged if the brain is damaged? Well, that's a loaded question. Let's take the first part. If a robot has self-awareness, does it have a soul? No. A soul connects or is one with biological material. Biological material. Everything is consciousness, but everything is not self-aware. So, of course, it is very possible to create artificial intelligence and it thus becomes self-aware if it is operating and existing long enough within its own paradigm, within its own system. So yes, so in that vein, the robot would have spirit, because spirit travels through and is within all things, everything. But soul does not exist or permeate through all things. Again, the soul is one with biological energy, biological force. Wow, those are very interesting flies. The second part of that question is programmed self-awareness energy. Why can't consciousness get damaged if the brain is damaged? Well, the same reason why if we were to get into our vehicle and crash it and it destroys the engine, if we can't crank it up or move it, or if the crash caused some kind of internal damage, we're only limited by the vehicle itself. But does that mean the person who's operating the vehicle has stopped thinking and has stopped thinking of ways and finding ways to navigate and to be and to travel, to exist? Think of it in that way. The brain is basically a conduit connected to a vessel. So just because there is brain damage does not mean that the being, the force that is driving or that is connected to that vehicle is damaged. It is only limited by the vehicle itself, but the entity or the force behind the vehicle still has its full faculties, its full power. And this is another example of how and when, if we apply mind over matter, we can overcome those defects, those imperfections, those injuries that occur to the physical body. We can override it if we are aware that we have that power within us. But again, if we are conscious, allowing our consciousness with the body to dictate what is possible, then we create our own firewall from that greater part of us that is not injured or bound by the injuries of the brain or the physical body. If I dream, I created my own reality. Therefore, I invent that my head is transplanted, to a bat or an animal. It means that the present soul of mine is still with the body and is bounded. So in this life, if my head is transplanted to something else, it's the present soul of me somewhere else. Again, another very loaded question, and I'm just going to condense this as simple as possible. If your head is cut off and transplanted to another body, you are basically fragmented. Your consciousness is split. Your spirit would be split. Part of you will still be with your body, and your brain and consciousness will, for the most part, still be filtering through your processor, through your brain. So you will be split. Will the soul be still connected to that brain and body? Again, yes, but it will be split. And with any split, especially of an unnatural situation such as that, it will create disharmony and discord in some kind of way. So will the soul still be present? Of course. Will there be some kind of issue as a result of such a thing? Of course. Will there be discord as a result? Of course. But again, if we were to apply mind over matter, all things would still be possible. But because many of us are still operating from a lower animal mind state, and we have not really allowed ourselves to really truly connect with that greater quantum level of awareness that we will simply, by our own agreement, be bound by the limitations of those splits, of those separations, of those discords, of that unnatural situation that has occurred with the head and body. But again, the soul is still present until the materials, that the biological materials that the soul is using to experience totally cease to be. Astral, have you ever seen shadow beings? I have been seeing them recently and would like to know who and what they are. Would you please talk about this in a future video? Alright, I have touched on this in the past. Shadow beings can be multiple things. It could be another fabric or reality slightly bleeding over into this one. It could be a glitch in the matrix, meaning a parallel reality that existed once in that very same space, playing itself out in a loop. It very well could be a glitch in the matrix, and it very well could be dimensional beings or spirits showing up in your energy field, and in that moment you are sensitive to the vibration, and it is making an imprint on your consciousness in a way, but you do not have enough light to actually see what is there, or your mind's eye is not stimulated enough to really gauge what is truly there. So this is always going on. I have experienced this multiple times, and I experience it all of the time, and as a matter of fact, it is a common occurrence, although most people don't talk about it, or will talk about it in a lighthearted way. For instance, they'll say, oh, it was just my imagination, or they're automatically associated with demons or some evil because it's a shadow, or because it appears to be a tall man with a intimidating presence. Again, we color our experiences often based off of our limited understanding, but there's no black or white clear-cut answer as to what shadow beings are, because it could be many things. It really could be. But these things are real, they are very common, and they happen, and there's nothing to be fearful of. They say that the body is a vehicle for the soul, which we are. Does the soul have a location, or is it limited to a place, such as the head or body? Do I take experience through the head or through the body? Again, another loaded question. To make it as simple as possible, the soul simply is. You can't measure it or how it navigates. It just is, and when it chooses to take part in an experience, it is one with that vehicle, that experience, but it's also outside of time and space. It's just, it can't be measured. You can't put it in a vacuum. Just like reality itself, you really can't put something that's so massive and so powerful in quantumness on so many levels in a vacuum. You just can't do it. So, alright, does consciousness get bigger and higher if I don't take this illusion seriously by trying to avoid it? Interesting question. Well, first of all, just by being here in dense matter, we are expanding, because just to experience and just to be here, we are expanding and we are growing, but absolutely we are not growing as expansive as we could if we don't really take to the experience. Now, there's nothing wrong with not taking the experience too seriously, but to avoid an experience or to avoid a challenge, no, you don't really grow in that way. We become stagnant when we do that. It's all about the experience. So why not try to learn something from it? Why not try to pass on what you've learned from your experience to another who may be stagnant or who may not even be aware that this is an experience, So it's just like anything else. If we don't feed it, if we don't exercise it, it won't grow like a muscle. If you don't use it, it becomes flaccid and stagnant. A beautiful crane just flew by. Beautiful. It becomes flaccid and stagnant. Consciousness is much in the same way. Yes, it continues to grow through the experience just by being here, but if we don't give it a little resistance here or there and be challenged or to take it by the bullhorn every now and then, no, it really doesn't grow beyond what it does by default. It doesn't really expand. You have to feed it. You have to give it a little resistance here and there. You have to challenge it every now and then. Marijuana aid in making our consciousness higher, very similar to the previous question, and if yes, how so? Marijuana that is not laced with synthetics is the best tool. Again, this is a tool that can assist in opening doorways and portals into higher consciousness. I know someone who uses pure marijuana for that reason, to help them as a tool. It's not a crutch. They're not dependent on it, but they use it as a tool to help them to expand and grow in consciousness. So in that vein, yes, it could be very helpful to one who chooses to explore and experiment with their consciousness in this way. But just like anything else, when you become dependent upon, or when you lace it with chemicals and unnatural things and you abuse it, yeah, it could be a problem. It could really be a problem. But the way in which it could help us is by using it in a way that is enhancing where we are, who we are, and why we are being, and helping us to achieve a certain kind of goal. It's all about the intent and the intention. If your goal is to be balanced as possible and to use these things every now and then as a tool or doorway to access higher consciousness, yes, it could be used in that way, and it could be very beneficial and helpful because it does open our consciousness up and create doorways into those higher upper dimensional realms. And ironically and interestingly enough, a lot of creative people, a lot of artists smoke the stuff in order to get creative inspiration. I'm an artist, I'm a creative person. I've never tried weed, I'm not interested in trying weed, and that's not a judgment on anyone who does want to or use this, or someone who does use it. It's just not for me. But if you want to do so, and you do it sparingly and do it all naturally, hey, I have no judgments about it. And yes, it can help and aid in achieving higher states of awareness and tapping into higher dimensional realms of consciousness and awareness. Do you believe in the New World Order and the Illuminati? If so, why don't you talk about them in your videos? I get this one a lot. And I'm going to tell you why I don't really focus on those kinds of discussion. Number one, there's more than enough information out there about it as it is and as it were. I am aware of these situations. I am aware of these organizations, but let me just say for the record, the reason why I don't put energy and focus into these things and drawing more people into the focus and attention of such things is because from my perspective, it's not so much that these realities and these organizations have so much power. What it is for me is that too many people are giving these organizations and these so-called realities too much power, too much attention. I am all about helping us to understand, understand, ultrastand the power that we have within and how we co-create and create our own realities. I am all about helping people to understand how we could create a reality that has nothing to do with those elements, those groups, those sects. It is very possible. As a matter of fact, many of us are already doing it right in the same reality and space. Why? Because these brothers and sisters are putting their life force, their time, their energy, their focus into ideals, ideas, concepts, realities, missions, agendas that counteract those things that so many people want to keep their focus, attention, and energy on. Remember, we are creators and co-creator of our reality, and there are forces. There are intelligences and agents, some knowing and some unknowing, who want our attention, our energy, and our focus in order to make their reality, their agenda, their creation to have power and presence in our reality so that they can continue to have the illusion of power or the upper hand. It is only when we give that or give these forces, these entities, that kind of power and that kind of attention that makes it powerful and real in our reality, be it individually or collectively. So you see, I'm all about helping us to first understand or understand, ultrastand the true nature of reality. And when we truly grasp or begin to grasp this, we wouldn't have time to be worrying about or focusing on those other organizations or those other sects or other groups, because we would be too busy creating our own reality, co-creating a world that we would like to see for ourselves, those that we love, our offsprings, our family, our friends. We will be using our life force and our attention to make that reality stronger. Now, that's not to say that if we see injustice in the world that we're not supposed to take a stance. Of course, we should take a stance if we see injustice and inequality happening in the world, because when that is being done to a brother or sister, that is being done to us all. But again, what is going to take precedence? The world that someone wants to lure or trap us into, or the world that we want to see for ourselves yet to be realized? You see where I am going with this? That's a catchphrase. Somebody, I may make a t-shirt. You see where I'm going with this? An ABB catchphrase. And on that note, continue to question, learn, and grow. Thank you for your time and continued support.